Hello, viewers and listeners, to the next episode of Welcome to Perth Catch Ups. Today, I have with me a very special guest, a man not too far away from me in age, and he's travelled around the world. He's had a really interesting life so far, growing up in South Africa, and I'm sure he's going to share some stories about his time in the States and Southeast Asia. He's an acoustic guitarist. He's also a singer-songwriter. I've seen him surfing on longboards. We're going to find out if he can actually surf on a normal board as well. But I've got David Lazarus with us. Hey, mate.
Hey, mate. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, wonderful.
We're here in beautiful Hyde Park. We were just chatting off camera, and you normally don't make it outside of the Scarborough postcode. So how does it feel to be outside of Scarborough now?
Tell you what, mate, it's a bit of a journey. We had a road trip down here, and but it's beautiful to be here in the middle of Perth. Yeah, it's funny because since I've moved over to Scarborough, it's kind of like it becomes a bubble. You don't really move out of much. Yeah, it's good to venture out.
Well, welcome to Hyde Park, mate, and North Perth.
Yeah.
Now, I always like to ask our guests on our podcast, give us some highlights of your playing career so far, and just life in general, and then I'll hit you with a low light as well.
All right. So I'd say probably the biggest highlight for me that's comes to mind is I did a little road trip across the States, doing a road trip tour a few years back, and it was sort of completely independently organized, and it was all house concert tours. So I was playing in people's living rooms and backyards, I sort of had this idea that I wanted to journey over there and sort of put the word out there that this was what I wanted to do, and we managed to organize a bit of a tour which lasted about 2 months. So that was definitely one of the highlights.
How many states did you visit in America?
I think we got to 16 maybe.
Love it.
Yeah.
So 16, you're able to fund your trip for 2 months, 16 states.
Yeah.
And playing in backyards and different little spots. And at gigs, do you have people? Whenever I go to comedy gigs, I'm always just like, it must be tough being a stand-up comedian when it's expected that you have hecklers in the crowd. Like that, I mean, I know the very good comedians just roll with it and make it funny, but I reckon that would rattle me. So do you have your version of hecklers sometimes when you're playing live gigs?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, look, it depends. Sometimes you're playing maybe a bar gig or something, and you've got someone who's had a few too many, and they're trying to jump on the mic, and and it's sort of like over the years, you get used to handling those situations.
Yeah.
I think at first I used to be a bit more, I guess, timid, and I wouldn't know what to do, so I would almost let the person take control of the situation, and then I'd find myself in a strange position. Whereas now, I think if something that happens, I sort of know how to laugh it off and kind of
take back control.
Yeah, take back control, but in a way which is not going to make them feel upset or
not in an aggressive way. So all of a sudden, you're smashing your guitar.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially because I play a bit out in the Swan Valley, and we get wine tours coming through, and people are having a great time. They're having a few drinks, and sometimes people just want to jump on stage and play and sing some music, and you got to politely be like, I'm so sorry, you can't do right now, but kind of bring them into it and make it a fun experience.
Yeah.
So,
does that mean you then go, what's the next track you want to hear?
Yeah,
so they feel like they're at least engaging and having a part of the show, even
100%.
though they're not absolutely torching it on the mic.
Yeah, I like to, as much as I can, keep people involved, and if someone is doing that, it's sort of often like if that does happen, their friends will recognize it as well, and they'll sort of come in and save the day.
Yeah.
So I would say I can't say I've had a really specific experience with a heckler like a comedian, stand-up comedian would have, but yeah, definitely experiences with the people who have had a few beverages.
Love it.
Doing business in Asia is very very exciting and interesting. And it's definitely not the same how it would work here in Perth or in Australia, anywhere else in the world really. You need to have the connection with local people over there, and essentially any business that you're involved with, they're a huge part of. So you can't just roll in as as a foreigner and just, hey, I'm going to
now
start
doing
this.
this, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to have you have to have a network and have the right people on board, and then even once it starts and once you're operating, there are so many challenges when it comes to visas and immigration and because we used to have normally backpackers who would be working with us, and there was always a challenge trying to get the through the immigration thing and the right visas, and so it was definitely exciting, like I say. It was also like one of those things, you're a foreigner in their country, and the rules changed.
Yeah.
You think that everything is, this is how it is, and then all of a sudden one day they just decide to change the rules. And
because the government changes, or because they just decide they need a bit more money, or
it's pretty much, it's like money's a big thing. How can we get some more money? And then there'll be some kind of shift in the government or something, and it's a constant thing that you're like, all right, what's the latest?
Got to keep adapting.
Got to keep adapting.
And, yeah.
But I guess that's the exciting part of doing business in a foreign country. It's sort of you're there that's part of the thrill.
Is there any mafia you have to worry about over there?
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be listening to this podcast, so I think it's okay.
Yes, they follow me to Perth. Look, there's definitely, I guess you could call it a mafia. It's not something that I ever experienced firsthand. When I was involved with the business, we had our local guys who pretty much looked after that, and that was essentially their role, is to just keep us on the good side. It's definitely a thing that exists. You've got these families who have lived for example, in Koh Tao for years, and they pretty much just run the show. And so, yeah, there is that element of it. It's not a scary thing at all. It's one of those things that, when I say not scary, it's sort of, as long as you do the right thing and you're respectful, it's not something you ever have to worry about. I think it's more...
Be a good human and follow your network's advice. With,
exactly.
Don't do this, do this. Yeah,
exactly.
This is not the culture, this is what it's
100%.
expected.